Chapter 5, Homecoming.
The long hike finally ended when they came to the entrance of the tunnel. They walked out into the world. The sun blared into their eyes. They immediately put on the glasses Thorant had supplied them. Both silently thanked him for the gift. They had known the sun would be different for them, but they had no idea that it would be so intense. Their clothes were dirty and tattered. They hiked for the road. They got to the parking lot where they had left Scott's truck, but it was gone. "You think they've called off the search by now?" Scott asked, realizing that they must have been reported missing by now. "They must have, or there would be someone here," Taylor said, confused. He had figured there would be a whole media circus when they came out. As it turned out, they had a couple young boys that had gotten lost in the Uintas on the second day of their search. They had reluctantly left and gone to search for the younger boys. From the information they had from Tiffany, Taylor and Scott were accomplished mountaineers, therefore more likely to make it out on their own. Tiffany was still at the police station fighting for the two. She had thought about coming and searching on her own, but she had never been very good in the outdoors. The main reason she did not leave the police is because they had told her she may be able to get some time in a helicopter soon. She had gone through every emotion over the last 3 days, and now she was left with little hope. She started to prepare herself for the answer to the worst question. What if Scott is dead? She shrugged it off and went back to one of her magazines her sister had brought her. Not yet, she thought to herself. A ranger truck pulled into the parking lot. The ranger's eyes got very big when he saw the two. "Holy shit, we've been looking for you boys," the ranger said. "We just found our way out this morning," Taylor replied. The ranger jumped out of his truck and checked the boys over, and then the media circus began. The minute the news hit the radio, the media and the police were scrambling. The ranger got them to his truck, and they acted the part of the weak lost hikers that finally found their way out of the mountains. They were brought to the ranger station, and they were rechecked for injury, and of course they found none. The two were in better shape than they had been before they went up. The ranger got them down to the valley. The reporters and the police swarmed them, trying to gain more details about the story. Thankfully, they only had to tell the story a couple times. Taylor again wished they would have come up with a story that did not make them look like two amateur mountaineers. But after the questions stopped, it worked in the end. Tiffany was a few minutes behind the reporter, and her and Scott shared a deep embrace. This, of course, was captured by a dozen news cameras, and became the lead story on the nightly news. Taylor avoided the media as best he could, as he wanted nothing to do with the entire scene. After the two were released by the police, Tiffany, Scott, and Taylor piled into the car. She drove Taylor to his apartment. As he got out of the car, he looked Scott square in the eyes. "If you need me, call," Taylor said. Then lighter, he said, "You guys have a good night." And he watched them drive away. He felt a pang of sadness that no one waited in his apartment. He sighed and walked to his apartment. He opened the door. He walked in and got directly into the shower. After he cleaned the mud and dirt off him, he changed into a pair of sweatpants and a tank top. His senses were becoming more and more acute. He could tell he was starting to hear better, and was surprised that he could easily hear his own heartbeat. Taylor got a sly smile on his face and extended his hand to the remote. He concentrated, and the remote shifted weight. Encouraged by the movement, Taylor concentrated even harder, and the remote bobbled and then flipped into his hand. "I've always wanted to do that," Taylor said, and flipped on the TV and watched the news. He grimaced every time he saw a story of the two lost hikers returning from the wild. He wound up watching a traveling show. He longed to travel, going to new places and seeing new things. Go see the world. Had Thorant not said that to him? "Maybe it's time," Taylor mumbled to himself. He was on his way to the fridge to get a drink when the phone rang. He grabbed it quickly. "Hello," he said into the receiver. "Wow, you feeling it too?" Scott's voice came over the receiver. "Yeah, it's amazing," Taylor said. "I didn't know it would be quite like this," Scott said. "Yeah, I don't think I have any idea, but it's wild. You okay?" Taylor inquired. Yeah, fine. I just wanted to call and see how you were doing, Scott replied. Taylor did not answer for a moment, but in the end he said, Yeah, I'm fine. I'm going to do some reading. Give me a call in the morning, or if you need anything, Taylor replied. They got off the phone and Taylor got his drink. He loved to read even when he was a human, but as a vampire he could enjoy it even more, even though he was living a story he had read a dozen times. Reading was a comfort for him. One of the major reasons he wanted to become a vampire is so he would have a lot of time to read. And maybe to gain access to the books Thorain't had in his home. He had to admit it was strange being home again. Although nothing here had changed, it all seemed very different. He read 2 books that night. He finished up the second book and went into his bedroom. He lay down in bed, and before he went to sleep, he thought of his parents, as he did every night. I miss you guys, Taylor thought, as he finally fell off to sleep.